In my hospital room, my wife whispered, "When he's gone, everything is ours." Her lover smiled. "I can't wait, baby." The nurse checking my IV looked at them and said, "He can hear everything you're saying." The fluorescent lights hummed above me like a choir of insects, their sound the only constant in a world that had just shattered into pieces I couldn't yet count. I want you to understand something before I tell you what happened in that hospital room. I want you to understand that I loved her. Not in the way people say they love someone when they mean they're comfortable, or when they mean they've simply stopped looking for something better. I loved my wife, Catherine, the way you love oxygen, without thinking, without questioning, with the absolute certainty that it will always be there, keeping you alive. We'd been married for 12 years. 12 years of Sunday morning pancakes and Thursday night takeout. 12 years of her cold feet pressed against my calves in winter, and her laughter echoing through our three-bedroom colonial in Westchester. 12 years of building something I thought was unshakable. But here's what I've learned about foundations. They don't crumble all at once. They fracture in hairline cracks you can't see until the whole structure comes down on your head. The accident happened on a Tuesday. I remember this because I'd been running late for our weekly partners meeting at the firm, and I'd texted Catherine that I'd pick up Thai food on the way home. Green curry, extra spicy, the way she liked it. I never made it to the restaurant. The other driver ran a red light. That's what the police report said. What it didn't say was that in the moment of impact, as metal screamed against metal and glass exploded into 1,000 crystalline daggers, I thought of her. I thought of Catherine. I thought, she'll be worried. I need to call her. I woke up in the ICU 3 days later. The doctors called it a miracle. Traumatic brain injury, they said, but I'd come through it. Swelling had gone down. Motor functions were intact. There was just one small complication. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't open my eyes, but I could hear. God, could I hear. They called it locked-in syndrome, though they weren't sure if it would be permanent. My brain was awake, alert, processing every sound, every word, every whisper in that sterile white room. But my body had become a prison, and I was serving a sentence I didn't deserve. Catherine came every day. At first, "Marcus, baby, I'm here," she'd say, her voice thick with what I believed was grief. "The doctors say you might be able to hear me. They say you might wake up soon. I need you to wake up, okay? I need you to come back to me." She'd hold my hand. I could feel that. The warmth of her fingers, the familiar callus on her palm from her tennis racket. And I'd try, God, how I'd try to squeeze back, to let her know I was still in here, still fighting, still hers. But my body refused. Days passed, maybe weeks. Time becomes elastic when you're trapped in darkness, when the only markers are the changing of nursing shifts and the rhythm of medication schedules. Catherine's visits grew shorter. Her voice lost its desperate edge and took on something else, something I couldn't quite name, but that made my chest tight in ways that had nothing to do with the tubes keeping me alive. Then he started coming with her. "This is my friend Daniel," she said one afternoon. And even in my darkness, even in my paralysis, I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "He's been such a support through all of this." Daniel's voice was smooth, practiced. "Marcus, man, I'm so sorry about what happened. Catherine's been telling me all about you. You sound like an incredible guy." An incredible guy. Present tense, as if I were already gone. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear myself out of this useless body and demand to know why this stranger was in my hospital room. Why his voice carried the easy familiarity of someone who'd been around for longer than my accident. But I couldn't. I could only lie there, a consciousness trapped in flesh, and listen. And oh, how I listened. The conversations changed when they thought I was truly gone, when they believed my silence meant absence, when they forgot, or chose to forget, that the machine still beeped, that my chest still rose and fell, that somewhere behind my closed eyes, I was still there. "He looks so peaceful," Catherine said one evening, her chair scraping closer to my bed, "like he's already halfway somewhere else." "Maybe he is." Daniel's voice came from near the window. I could hear him shifting, probably leaning against the sill. "The doctor said the chances of full recovery are..." I know what they said. Her voice was sharp, then softened. I know, it's just, this isn't how I imagine things going. Life rarely goes how we imagine, Kat. Kat. He called her Kat. In 12 years of marriage, she'd never let me call her anything but Catherine. She said nicknames were too casual, too familiar. And here was this stranger, shortening her name like he'd earned the right. When he's stable enough to transfer to long-term care, but she continued, and I felt her hand on mine, but different now, perfunctory, the way you might touch a piece of furniture you're considering donating. We'll need to figure out the finances. His life insurance policy is substantial, but if he lingers, the word hit me like a second car crash. The business is worth more, Daniel said. You said he's got 2 partners, right? What's the buyout clause look like? I haven't looked yet. His lawyer has all the documents, but Marcus was always paranoid about that stuff, had everything structured so I'd be taken care of if something happened. Smart man. Daniel's footsteps crossed the room. Shame he's not smart enough to wake up and see what's right in front of him. My heart monitor spiked, just for a moment, just enough that I heard the slight increase in beeping, felt the nurse's footsteps quicken past my door. But no one came in. No one noticed. Don't, Catherine said, but there was no conviction in it. Don't say things like that. Why not? Kat, we've been dancing around this for months. Hell, we were dancing around it before the accident. You think I don't know that you were planning to leave him? You think I don't remember what you said that night at the Hendersons' party? For the accident. The Hendersons' party. That was 3 months ago. Catherine had been quiet on the drive home, distant in a way I'd attributed to too much wine. She'd said she had a headache. She'd gone straight to bed. And I, oblivious fool that I was, had stayed up watching late-night television, grateful for a quiet house, never once imagining that my wife's headache was actually heartache. Heartache for someone else. That was different, she said now. That was when I thought I had options. Now he's like this, and if I leave, I look like the monster who abandoned her husband after a tragic accident. So we wait. So we wait. The silence that followed was heavy with implication. I could hear them breathing, could almost feel the tension in the air, the magnetic pull between 2 people who wanted something they weren't supposed to have. Then I heard it, the soft, wet sound of a kiss. In my darkness, in my paralysis, I felt something die. Not my body, that was already betraying me. No, this was something deeper. The death of trust, the death of the man I'd been before this moment. The death of every assumption I'd made about my life, my marriage, my future. But in that death, something else was born, something cold and patient and utterly, terrifyingly clear. The nurse came in then, her rubber soles squeaking on the linoleum. Time to check vitals, she announced, and I heard Catherine and Daniel spring apart like teenagers caught after a curfew. Of course, Catherine said, her voice recovered, polished. We were just leaving anyway. We'll be back tomorrow, Daniel added. Hang in there, Marcus. Their footsteps retreated. The door clicked shut. The nurse moved around my bed, efficient and thorough. I heard her pen scratching notes on a clipboard, heard the rustle of her scrubs as she checked tubes and monitors. Your wife seems nice, she said softly, more to herself than to me. Dedicated, coming here every day like she does. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to cringe. I wanted to tell this kind stranger that my wife wasn't nice, wasn't dedicated, was counting the days until my body caught up with her plans. But I could only lie there in my silence. Days turned into a week, maybe 2. Catherine and Daniel grew bolder, their conversations in my room evolving from careful implication to explicit planning. The house is worth at least $2 million, Catherine said one afternoon. And that's before the property values spike when they finish that new shopping center. What about liquid assets? Plenty. You may. Marcus was always good with money, conservative but good. We've got investment accounts, retirement funds, the partnership stake, and then there's the life insurance. How much? I heard her smile. You can hear a smile, you know. It's in the slight change of breath, the lift in the voice. I'd heard Catherine smile 1,000 times. Now I was hearing her smile about my death. $5 million. Daniel whistled low. That's a lot of motivation to pull the plug. Daniel, What? I'm just saying what we're both thinking. I'm not thinking that. I'm just planning for after. After he dies on his own. After he dies on his own, she agreed. They were quiet for a moment, and I could picture them looking at me. At my still form, at my closed eyes and slack face, at the shell of the man who had loved Catherine with everything he had. It's taking too long, Daniel finally said. These things take time. We don't have time, Kat. My lease is up in 2 months. You said we'd be together by then. And we will be. How? You can't move in with me while your husband's still alive, even if he's a vegetable. And I can't keep this apartment. It's too expensive without combining our finances. I know. Just give me time to figure this out. Time is exactly what we don't have. Catherine sighed. The doctors are doing another evaluation next week. They'll check for brain activity, see if there's any change. If there isn't what? If there isn't, I can start talking about quality of life decisions. About what Marcus would have wanted. What Marcus would have wanted. I wanted to live, Catherine. I wanted to wake up. I wanted to go home and eat Thai food and watch Sunday football and grow old with the woman I'd chosen to spend my life with. I wanted to not be murdered by my wife. That could work, Daniel said slowly. But you'd need the doctors to agree. They will. I've been so devoted, so present. Everyone sees how hard this has been on me. When I suggest that maybe keeping him alive isn't what he would have wanted, they'll listen. They'll understand. The door opened again. Different footsteps this time. Heavier, more purposeful. Mrs. Chen? A woman's voice, professional but warm. I'm Dr. Patterson. I've been reviewing your husband's case. Catherine stood. I heard her chair scrape back. Doctor, is there any change? That's what I wanted to discuss. Your husband's brain scans are showing some interesting activity. There's evidence of consciousness, even if he can't respond externally. My heart soared. Someone knew. Someone could see that I was still in here. What does that mean? Daniel asked. And you are? A friend, family friend. Dr. Patterson paused. Well, it means that Mr. Chen may be aware of his surroundings. Locked-in syndrome is rare, but it does happen. Patients can hear, can understand, but can't respond due to the specific nature of their brain injury. Silence. Then Catherine laughed. It was a brittle sound, sharp enough to cut. That's not possible. You're saying he can hear us? It's very possible. I'd recommend we start a new treatment protocol. There are communication methods we can try. Eye movements, specialized equipment. If Marcus is conscious, we should be able to establish some form of contact. I see. Catherine's voice had gone flat, controlled. And when would this protocol begin? I'd like to start tomorrow. We'll bring in our specialist. It's quite exciting, actually, if we can reach him. His prognosis improved significantly. That's wonderful news, Catherine said. And the lie was so smooth, so perfect, that I wondered how many other lies she'd told me over the years. We'll be here first thing. Excellent. I'll see you both then. Our Patterson's footsteps retreated. The moment the door closed, I heard Catherine's sharp intake of breath. Did you hear that? She hissed. I heard it. He can hear us, Daniel. He's been hearing everything. Every single conversation. Maybe not. Maybe she's wrong. And if she's not, if he wakes up and tells everyone what we've been saying. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then we have a problem. No. This can't be happening. Catherine's voice was rising, panic bleeding through her careful control. We talked about the insurance, about the house, about waiting for him to die. Daniel, if he knows, calm down. You need to calm down. How can I be calm? Our entire plan is ruined. Everything we wanted, everything we've been working toward, is not ruined. Listen to me. Daniel's voice dropped low and I strained to hear. He can't communicate yet. They said they're starting tomorrow. That gives us tonight. Tonight for what? To figure out how to handle this. Handle this how? I don't know yet. But we have options. What options? He knows, Daniel. He knows everything. He can't prove anything, even if he wakes up. Even if he tells people, it's his word against ours. And who are they going to believe? The devoted wife who's been by his bedside every day, or the man with severe brain trauma who's been in a coma? Catherine was quiet, thinking. I could almost hear the gears turning, the calculations being made. You're right, she finally said. You're right. It's his word against mine. And I've been so careful with the public narrative. Everyone thinks I'm the grieving wife. Exactly. So we stick to the plan. If he wakes up, you cry, you celebrate, you thank God for the miracle. And if he says anything about our conversations, you look confused, hurt. He must be confused, doctor. The brain trauma. He's mixing up his dreams with reality. That could work. It will work. Trust me. I felt Catherine's hand on mine again. Oh, Marcus, she said, and her voice had changed, softened into the parody of love she'd been performing. If you can hear me, baby, I want you to know that I love you. I've always loved you. We're going to get through this together. And then under her breath, so quiet I almost missed it, just play along and everything will be fine. She was talking to me, warning me. My paralyzed hand lay limp in hers, but inside I was screaming. They left soon after, and the room fell into its familiar rhythm of beeps and hums. The night nurse came in, a different one this time. I heard her gentle movements as she checked my vitals, adjusted my IV, smoothed my blankets. Long day, Marcus? She asked softly. Your wife was here a while. She talks to you a lot. That's good. They say hearing familiar voices can help. She was quiet for a moment doing her work. I saw her with that man again, she continued, conversational, as if I were a friend she was catching up with. The one she brings. Daniel, right? They seem close. I'm sure it's just support, though. Your wife clearly loves you. The way she holds your hand, talks to you, that's real devotion. She had no idea. You know what I've learned in 20 years of nursing? She continued. The body knows. Even when the mind is locked away, the body knows what's true. And your body, Marcus, your vitals spike when certain people are in the room. Did you know that? Your heart rate increases, your blood pressure fluctuates. The body knows. She patted my hand. Get some rest. Big day tomorrow with Dr. Patterson. We're going to see if we can get you talking again. Her footsteps moved toward the door, then stopped. And Marcus, if you can hear me, really hear me, just know that whatever you're going through in there, whatever you're feeling, it matters. Your truth matters. Don't let anyone take that from you. The door closed softly behind her. In the darkness of my mind, in the prison of my body, I held on to those words like a lifeline. Your truth matters. Don't let anyone take that from you. Tomorrow they would try to help me communicate. Tomorrow I might be able to tell someone what I'd heard, what I knew, what my wife was planning. And Catherine knew it. She'd be ready for me, ready with her tears and her denials and her narrative of the confused, brain-damaged husband. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know, was that I'd been a litigator for 15 years. I made my living finding the truth in lies, building cases from whispers and implications, proving what people thought could never be proven. She thought my silence made me powerless. She was wrong. My silence had made me something far more dangerous than she could imagine. It had made me a witness, and witnesses, I knew better than anyone, were the cornerstone of justice. Dr. Patterson arrived at 9:00 a.m. sharp. I knew this because the nurse had announced it, her voice carrying that particular brightness that medical professionals reserve for moments of hope. Good morning, Marcus. Your doctor is here. Today's the big day. If you've ever felt hope and terror simultaneously, you know it's a peculiar sensation. Like standing at the edge of a cliff, wanting desperately to fly but knowing the fall might kill you. That was me, lying in that hospital bed, aware that in the next few hours, everything could change, for better or worse. Mr. Chen, I'm going to be straightforward with you, Dr. Patterson said, her voice clear and close to my ear. If our scans are correct, you're experiencing locked-in syndrome. Your cognitive functions are intact, but your motor control has been severely compromised by the accident. I want to try establishing communication with you today. Are you ready? Was I ready? I'd been ready for weeks, ready to scream the truth from the rooftops. To expose Catherine's betrayal, to prove that I was still here, still alive, still the man I'd always been. But I also knew that Catherine would be here. She'd said, boy. She'd be watching, waiting to see if I revealed what I knew. And what then? Would she do something desperate? Daniel had mentioned options the night before. What did that mean? Your wife called this morning, the nurse added. She said she'll be here in an hour. She wanted to give you time to settle in with the doctor first. 1 hour. 1 hour to prove I was conscious before Catherine arrived with her excuses and her lies. Now, Dr. Patterson continued, the first thing we're going to try is eye movement. Even in severe cases of locked-in syndrome, patients often retain the ability to move their eyes vertically. I want you to try something for me, Marcus. If you can hear me, if you understand me, I want you to try to look up. Just move your eyes upward. Can you do that for me? I focused every ounce of my being on my eyes. Such a simple thing, looking up. We do it 1,000 times a day without thinking. But now it was the most important thing I'd ever attempted. I thought of mountains, of the scalp of Catherine's hand in Daniel's, of the ceiling I knew was above me. I thought up, 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 commanding my eyes to obey. Nothing. Take your time, Dr. Patterson said gently. There's no rush. Your neural pathways may need some encouragement. Let's try again. Look up if you can hear me. I tried again and again. I imagined my eyes as prisoners rattling their cage doors, desperate for freedom. And then, movement. Slight, so slight I wasn't sure it had happened, but I heard Dr. Patterson's sharp intake of breath. Marcus, oh my God, Marcus, can you do that again? Look up if you understand me. This time I felt it more clearly. The slight strain of muscles I'd thought had abandoned me. The infinitesimal shift of my eyeballs beneath their lids. Yes, that's it. You did it. Dr. Patterson's excitement was palpable. He's responding. Get me a notepad. No, get the communication board. We're going to try the alphabet. There was a flurry of movement around me. I could hear drawers opening, equipment being wheeled closer, the excited murmur of multiple people. Marcus, we're going to try something else. I'm going to slowly go through the alphabet. When I reach a letter you want, look up. We'll spell out words to there. Do you understand? I looked up. Good. Perfect. Let's begin. A, B, C, D. What should I spell first? What were the most important words? Wife, affair, murder, help. E, F, G, G, Dr. Patterson said as I looked up. The first letter is G. Excellent. Let's continue. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O. I looked up. O, G, O. So far, so good. Again, A, B. Wait, no. G, O, O wasn't what I meant to spell. I was trying to spell. What was I trying to spell? My thoughts felt sluggish, like wading through honey. The effort of eye movement was exhausting, more taxing than I could have imagined. C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O. O again? No, that wasn't right. I needed to focus. What was I spelling? Go where? Go what? G-O-O, let's keep going. A, B, C. The door opened. I heard it before Dr. Patterson acknowledged it, felt the shift in air pressure, sensed the presence of someone new in the room. Mrs. Chen, perfect timing. Your husband is communicating with us. Catherine's gasp sounded genuine. He is. Marcus, baby, can you hear me? He can definitely hear you. He's spelling something out for us right now. G-O-O so far. Marcus, let's continue. A, B, C, D. D. I looked up at D. G-O-O-D. Good. I was spelling good. Why was I spelling good? I'd meant to spell something important, something damning, but my brain had defaulted to the simple, the safe. G-O-O-D. Good. Marcus, that's wonderful. Dr. Patterson was practically bouncing. You're doing so well. Do you want to spell something else? Did I? Catherine was here now. I could feel her presence, heavy and watchful. If I spelled out her betrayal, what would happen? Would she cry? Deny? Would they believe me or her? Let me try something, Catherine said, and I heard her chair scrape closer. Marcus, honey, it's Catherine. I'm right here. I've been here every day, waiting for you to come back to me. Can you spell something for me? Tell me what you need. There was a dare in her voice, a challenge. Go ahead, she seemed to be saying. Tell them, see what happens. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. I looked up. I, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I, E, how about L, Wait, I-L-O-V, what was I spelling? I wasn't trying to spell anything. Or was I? The letters were coming automatically, divorced from my conscious intention. E. I-L-O-V-E. I love. Marcus is spelling I love. Patterson's voice was thick with emotion. He's communicating feelings. This is incredible. Marcus, who do you love? Let's continue. O, B, C, C, A, T, H. No. This wasn't right. I wasn't spelling Catherine. My brain was betraying me, defaulting to patterns worn deep by years of habit. I love Catherine. How many times had I said that, written that, thought that? It was encoded in my neural pathways like breathing. E, R, I-N-E. I love Catherine, Dr. Patterson announced, and I heard Catherine burst into tears. Oh, Marcus, she sobbed, and the sound was so convincing, so achingly real that for a moment I almost believed it myself. I love you too. I love you so much. I knew you'd come back to me. I knew it. She grabbed my hand, and I felt her tears drop onto my skin. Hot, wet, lies made liquid. This is remarkable, Dr. Patterson said. Truly remarkable. Mrs. Chen, your husband's cognitive function is clearly intact. With therapy and time, we may see significant recovery. That's the best news, Catherine managed between sobs. Isn't it, Marcus? We're going to get through this. Together. I wanted to scream. I wanted to spell out the truth. But my traitorous brain, conditioned by years of love and trust, kept betraying me. Every time I tried to focus on words like affair or Daniel or murder, my thoughts scattered like startled birds. It was as if the deeper parts of me couldn't yet accept what the surface knew to be true. Some fundamental piece of my psyche was still loyal to the woman who was planning my destruction. Let's give Marcus a rest, Dr. Patterson said. This is incredibly taxing, and we don't want to overwhelm him. We'll continue this afternoon. Mrs. Chen, perhaps you'd like some time alone with your husband. Yes, I'd like that very much. The room emptied. The door closed. And then it was just us, Catherine and me, wife and husband, hunter and prey. She didn't speak for a long moment. I could hear her breathing, controlled and steady, so different from the ragged sobs of moments ago. That was quite a performance, she finally said, her voice low and flat. I love Catherine. Really, Marcus? After everything? I couldn't respond. Couldn't explain that my body had acted on years of conditioning, that somewhere deep inside, the man I used to be was still hoping this was all a nightmare. Here's what's going to happen, she continued, leaning closer. I could smell her perfume, Chanel No. 5, the one I'd bought her for our 10th anniversary. You're going to continue to be the loving, brain-damaged husband. You're going to spell nice things and thank the doctors and act exactly like someone who doesn't remember the past few weeks clearly. Because here's the thing, Marcus, even if you do remember, who's going to believe you? She was right. I knew she was right. My credibility was compromised by the very injury that had imprisoned me. Daniel and I had a long talk last night. We've decided that maybe your recovery isn't such a bad thing after all. Think about it. You wake up, we celebrate. I play the devoted wife who nursed you back to health. And then, in 6 months, a year, we divorce. Amicably, of course. I'll be fair. I'll take 50% and leave quietly. No one will blame me. Caregiver burnout is a real thing. And you'll be too brain damaged to fight me in court. She laughed softly. It's actually better this way. Cleaner. No questions about life insurance or power of attorney. Just a sad story about a marriage that couldn't survive tragedy. She stood, and I heard her move toward the window. I'll give you time to think about this, Marcus. Time to accept it. Because the alternative, you trying to expose me, trying to tell people what you think you heard, that won't go well for you. I've spent weeks building my narrative. The nurses love me. The doctors respect me. Your partners at the firm feel sorry for me. Who are they going to believe? The grieving wife or the man with severe brain trauma who's clearly confused and paranoid? The door opened. Oh, nurse. Sorry I didn't hear you knock. Marcus and I were just having a moment. He spelled out, I love Catherine. Can you believe it? Even after all this, his first message was about his love for me. That's beautiful, Mrs. Chen, the nurse said, and I recognized her voice, the night nurse, the one who'd talked to me about truth. Truly beautiful. How are you holding up? It's overwhelming, Catherine said, and the catch in her voice was perfect. I've been praying for this, hoping he could hear me, and now to know he can, it's a lot. Of course it is. Why don't you take a break, get some coffee, maybe some lunch? Your husband needs rest, and frankly, so do you. You're right. Yes, you're right. Catherine squeezed my hand again. I'll be back soon, baby. Rest well. Her heels clicked across the floor and then she was gone. The nurse was quiet for a moment, checking my vitals, adjusting equipment. Then she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. You know what's interesting, Marcus? Your heart rate spiked during that whole conversation, but not in a good way, not the way it does when you're happy or excited. This was stress, fear maybe, and it's been doing that a lot lately, especially when your wife is here. She paused. I'm not supposed to talk to patients about my observations. Hospital policy. But I've been doing this job for 20 years, and I've learned to trust what I see. So I'm going to tell you something, Marcus. I'm going to tell you that I'm paying attention, that I'm watching, and that whatever is happening here, whatever truth you're holding on to inside that locked away mind of yours, there are people who will listen when you're ready to tell it. She smoothed my blanket. Patterson is coming back this afternoon. She's going to work with you more on the communication board. And I want you to think about something between now and then. Think about what you really want to say. Not what your conditioning says. Not what your fear says. What the truth says. She moved toward the door. Your wife won't be back for at least an hour. She always takes long lunches. Use this time, Marcus. Use it to figure out how to tell your story, because the body knows the truth. And right now, your body is screaming it. We just need to help your mind catch up. The door closed softly. I lay in my darkness, my thoughts racing. The nurse was right. I'd spelled I love Catherine because my muscle memory was stronger than my conscious will. I needed to overcome that. I needed to train my thoughts to match my intentions. I started practicing in my mind. DANIEL, AFFAIR, HELP. Over and over, I rehearsed the letters, drilling them into my consciousness like a lawyer preparing for the most important case of his life. Because that's what this was. The case of my life. Literally. And I knew something that Catherine had apparently forgotten in her arrogance, in her certainty that I was too damaged to fight back. I was still a lawyer, a damn good one. And lawyers don't just know how to build cases, we know how to time them. We know how to gather evidence. We know how to present truth in a way that can't be denied. Catherine thought she had months. She thought I'd be a compliant victim, too brain damaged to mount a defense, too in love with her to seek justice. She was wrong on both counts. The love I'd felt for her, that automatic, unquestioning devotion, it was still there, lodged in my neural pathways like a tumor. But now I could feel it dying, cell by cell, with every memory of her whispered conversations with Daniel. What was growing in its place was something colder, clearer, more powerful. Purpose. I was going to expose her. Not in the heat of emotion, not in a desperate burst of accusation that she could easily deflect. No, I was going to do it the way I'd done everything in my career, methodically, carefully, with evidence she couldn't refute. Dr. Patterson would be back in a few hours. I had that long to prepare, to train my rebellious mind, to plan my approach. Because Catherine had made one crucial mistake in her grand scheme. She'd forgotten that the silence in that hospital room went both ways. Yes, I was trapped in my body, unable to speak or move. But she'd been talking freely, believing I was absent. She'd given me everything I needed, and now I just had to figure out how to use it. Dr. Patterson returned at 2 p.m., but she wasn't alone. Marcus, I've brought someone with you, James Morrison from your law firm. He's been calling every day to check on your progress. And when I told him about this morning's breakthrough, he insisted on coming. James, my senior partner, my mentor, the man who'd taught me everything I knew about evidence law. Marcus, buddy, can you hear me? James's voice was gruff with emotion. Doc says you're in there, that you can understand everything. That true? I looked up, yes. Hot damn, James whispered. Look at that, he's really in there. He's very much in there, Dr. Patterson confirmed. We've been working on communication via eye movement. It's slow but effective. Would you like to try, Mr. Morrison? Would I, Marcus? I've got so much to tell you. So much, his voice broke. First, though, I need to know, is there anything you need? Anything at all? This was my moment. James wasn't just my partner. He was someone I trusted implicitly. Someone who would know how to help. Someone Catherine wouldn't have had time to manipulate. Dr. Patterson started the alphabet. But before we could begin, the door burst open. Ashayan, Catherine's voice rang out, bright and social. What a wonderful surprise. Marcus, look who's here. Catherine. James's tone had shifted subtly. I didn't realize you'd be back so soon. I couldn't stay away. Not after this morning, not after Marcus told me he loved me. She moved closer, and I heard her kiss my forehead. Besides, I know how much it would mean to him to have his partner here. You two have been thick as thieves for what, 15 years? 14, James corrected. That's right, 14 years of you two getting into trouble together. Her laugh was perfectly calibrated, warm, affectionate, nostalgic. Remember that time in Tampa? The case with the insurance fraud? I remember. Marcus talked about that for weeks. Said you were the best lawyer he'd ever worked with. Dr. Patterson cleared her throat. Mrs. Chen, perhaps you could give us some time. Mr. Morrison hasn't had a chance to communicate with Marcus yet, and these sessions are quite intensive. Oh, of course, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'll just sit quietly in the corner. You won't even know I'm here. The implication was clear. She wasn't leaving. James was quiet for a moment. Then, Catherine, could I ask you a favor? Could you run down to the cafeteria and grab me a coffee? Black, no sugar. These sessions could take a while. I can have the nurse. I'd really prefer your touch, Catherine. You always made the best coffee at the office parties. Remember? Another pause. I could feel Catherine calculating, weighing her options. Of course, she finally said. Back in 10 minutes. Her heels clicked away. The door closed. The moment she was gone, James leaned close. Marcus, I'm going to cut the bullshit. I've known you 14 years, and I know when something's wrong. Your wife has been off since your accident. Too perfect. Too devoted. It's not natural. He moved closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. I also know that you and Catherine were having problems. You didn't tell me directly, but I'm not an idiot. The late nights at the office when you didn't need to be there. The way you'd go quiet whenever someone mentioned marriage. I noticed, Marcus. I always notice. My heart was racing. He saw it too. He understood. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to try something faster than this alphabet game. Doc, with your permission? Of course. Marcus, I'm going to ask you yes or no questions. Look up once for yes, Twice for no. Can you do that? I looked up. Yes. Good. First question. Were you having marital problems before the accident? Up. Yes. Was Catherine seeing someone else? Up. Yes. Do you know who? Up. Yes. Is she planning something? Something to do with your condition? Up. Yes. James exhaled sharply. Jesus Christ. Marcus, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be absolutely certain. Are you in danger? I looked up. Yes. Holy shit, James breathed. Okay, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to get you out of this, Marcus. But we need to be smart. We need evidence. We need documentation. Can you tell me the name of the person Catherine is seeing? Dr. Patterson held up the alphabet board. Ready when you are, Marcus. This time I knew exactly what to spell. D-A-N-I-E-L. Daniel, James repeated. Do you know his last name? I thought hard. Had Catherine ever mentioned it? Had Daniel? I tried to remember, but my memories were fuzzy, incomplete. The medication, maybe, or the brain injury affecting specific recall. I looked down. No. That's okay. We'll find him. Description? I couldn't describe him through letter spelling. It would take too long. All right, and we'll work on that later. Marcus, listen to me carefully. Catherine is going to be back any minute. When she returns, you need to act normal. Don't let her know that you've told me anything. Can you do that? Yes. Good. Here's my plan. I'm going to hire a private investigator, one of the best. I'll have him follow Catherine, find this Daniel character, document everything. We're going to build a case, Marcus, a bulletproof case. Mr. Morrison, Dr. Patterson interjected. This is all very concerning, but we need to be careful. If Mrs. Chen is really plotting something, we need to involve the authorities. Not yet, James said firmly. We don't have enough evidence. If we go to the police now with accusations from a man who's been in a coma, a man who just today learned to communicate through eye movements, they'll pat us on the head and send us home. We need solid proof. He was right. In court, eyewitness testimony from someone with my condition would be immediately challenged. We needed corroboration. What about the hospital? Dr. Patterson suggested. There are security cameras and nurses who monitor patients. If something inappropriate has been happening in Marcus's room, that's excellent, James said. Can you check the footage discreetly? I'll need to go through proper channels, but yes, I can request a review of Mr. Chen's room footage as part of his medical care. I'll say we need to monitor visitor behavior for his therapeutic progress. Perfect. And Doc, start keeping detailed notes. Everything you observe, Catherine's behavior, Marcus's vital signs during visits, anything that seems off. I'm already doing that. His heart rate spikes significantly when his wife is in the room. It's been concerning me for a while. The door handle turned. She's back, James whispered. Remember, Marcus, normal, loving husband who doesn't remember anything problematic. Catherine breezed in with a coffee cup. Got your coffee, James, extra strong, just how you like it. How's our patient doing? Amazing progress, James said, his voice shifted back to friendly normalcy. He spelled out my name, Morri. Would have gotten the rest, but he got tired. That's wonderful. Marcus, you're doing so well. She squeezed my hand. The doctor said you might be able to come home soon. Isn't that exciting? We'll set up the guest room on the first floor. I've already started looking at hospital beds and physical therapy equipment. It'll be just like having you back where you belong. Home with Catherine, with my would-be murderer. Actually, James said casually, I was talking to the doc about a specialized rehabilitation facility. There's one upstate that's supposed to be excellent for cases like Marcus's. Full-time care, intensive therapy, might be better than home care, at least initially. Catherine's grip on my hand tightened almost imperceptibly. A facility? But I've been planning to care for him myself. It's my duty as his wife. It's a lot of work, Catherine, and Marcus deserves the best care possible. This place has a 90% recovery rate for locked-in syndrome. 90%. I appreciate your concern, James, but Marcus and I will discuss this when he's able. Won't we, darling? I didn't respond. I was too busy processing. A rehabilitation facility, away from Catherine, where she couldn't monitor me, couldn't control the narrative, couldn't whisper her threats. Well, James said, standing, I should let our boy rest. Marcus, I'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk more then. And Catherine, take care of yourself. All this stress can't be good for you. I'm fine, she said quickly. Perfectly fine. Of course you are. Strong as ever. He patted my shoulder. See you soon, partner. After he left, Catherine was quiet for a long time. Then she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. That was interesting. James seems very invested in your care. She moved to the window and I heard her tapping her fingers against the sill, a nervous habit I recognized from years of marriage. You wouldn't do anything stupid, would you, Marcus? Wouldn't try to turn people against me? I said nothing. Couldn't say anything. Because here's the thing. James might be your partner, but he's also smart. Smart enough to know that making accusations against a devoted wife, accusations from a man with severe brain damage, wouldn't go well for anyone. It would look like conspiracy, like you and James plotting against me. She returned to my bedside. So I hope you're not getting any ideas. I hope you're not thinking that James is going to be your white knight. Because, honey, even if he believes whatever you might try to tell him, it won't matter, not without proof, and there is no proof. She leaned close, her lips almost touching my ear. All those conversations Daniel and I had, they were in this room, with no witnesses except you. And you, my love, are not a credible witness. Your brain is damaged. Your memory is compromised. Any lawyer would tear you apart on the stand, and James knows it. She kissed my forehead again. So let's just focus on getting you better, okay? Getting you home where you belong, and then we'll figure out the rest together. She stayed for another hour, chattering about nothing, paint colors for the home office, a new restaurant downtown, gossip about neighbors. Normal wife talk, normal life talk, but I wasn't listening. I was planning. Catherine was right about one thing. I wasn't a credible witness. My testimony alone wouldn't be enough. But I wasn't alone now. I had James. I had Dr. Patterson. I had the night nurse who noticed too much. And I had something Catherine had apparently forgotten in her arrogance. I had time. She thought my recovery was a setback to her plans, something to be managed. But every day I got stronger was a day I could gather more evidence, involve more allies, build a more airtight case. She wanted me to come home. Fine, let me come home. Because a good lawyer knows that you don't win cases with accusations. You win them with preparation, with documentation, with patience. And I had learned, Barham, in my weeks of silent listening to be very, very patient. Catherine left when visiting hours ended. The night nurse came in shortly after, my ally in scrubs. How are you feeling, Marcus? Big day today. I looked up at her. I hear you had some visitors. James Morrison. I know him. He's called every single day since your accident. Good friend. I looked up again. Yes. And your wife seems attentive. Always here, always watching. There was something in her tone. A careful neutrality that spoke volumes. I'm going to tell you something, Marcus. Something I probably shouldn't, but I think you need to know. She checked the door, then leaned closer. There are cameras in this hospital, security cameras. They don't record audio, just video. But video can tell a story, and the story I've been seeing when I check the footage for my rounds, it's interesting. My heart rate spiked. Your wife, that man who comes with her, the way they stand together when you're up, the way they touch, it's subtle, they're careful, but it's there. She straightened my blanket. I've copied some footage, burned it to a disk. I'm not supposed to, and if anyone found out, I'd lose my job. But sometimes rules need to bend when wrong is being done. She was risking everything for me. I'm going to give this disc to Dr. Patterson. She can present it as part of your medical evaluation. And Marcus, I think you should know, I've already told her about my concerns. She's concerned too. We all are. She moved to the door. Get some rest now. Tomorrow's going to be another big day. And Marcus, whatever happens, know that you're not alone in this. There are people watching, people who care about the truth. As her footsteps faded, I felt something I hadn't felt since waking up in this hospital. Hope. Not the desperate, grasping hope of a drowning man, but something more solid, more strategic. The pieces were falling into place. James was investigating. Dr. Patterson was documenting. The night nurse had video evidence. And I, locked in my body but free in my mind, was at the center of it all. Catherine thought she was playing chess, moving pieces around a board only she could see. But she'd forgotten something crucial. I was a grand master at this game, and I'd been watching her moves all along. 3 weeks later, I was transferred to Clearwater Rehabilitation Center, 40 miles north of the city. Catherine had fought it, of course, had cried, had pleaded, had played the devoted wife who couldn't bear to have her husband so far away. But James had been persistent, and more importantly, Dr. Patterson had recommended it as medically necessary. His best chance at full recovery, she'd written in her official report. The facility offers specialized treatment that cannot be replicated in a home setting. And so I went. The transfer itself was a blur of movement and voices, of being loaded into an ambulance, of Catherine's hand clutching mine as she promised to visit every day. "I'll be there, Marcus, every single day. You won't be alone." She wasn't lying. She did come every day at first, but Clearwater was far, and Catherine had never liked long drives. And Daniel, I imagined, didn't like being left alone for hours while she tended to the husband she was trying to leave. Within a week, her daily visits became every other day, then twice a week, then once. "I'm so sorry, baby," she'd say during these increasingly rare appearances. "Work has been crazy, and the drive is exhausting. But I'm here now." Each visit, she'd hold my hand, she'd speak softly about her day, she'd perform her role of loving wife. And each visit, I noticed something new. The way her eyes wandered to the clock, the way her phone buzzed with texts she'd quickly silence, the way her perfume carried hints of cologne that wasn't mine. But I was changing too. The therapy at Clearwater was intensive and effective. Day by day, I was reclaiming my body. First came slight finger movements, then a head turn, then the ability to blink deliberately. My speech therapist, a patient woman named Margaret, worked with me for hours each day. "The brain is remarkable," she'd tell me. "It can rewire itself, find new pathways when old ones are damaged. You're living proof of that, Marcus." By the end of my first month at Clearwater, I could whisper, barely audible, raspy, but words, real words. "Water," I croaked one morning. Margaret actually cried. James visited twice a week without fail. He'd update me on the office, on cases, on life outside my rehab bubble. But more importantly, he'd update me on the investigation. "The PI's got some interesting stuff," he told me during one visit, making sure we were alone. "Your boy Daniel," his full name is Daniel Reeves, financial advisor, "met Catherine at some charity gala last year. They've been seen together multiple times, lunches, dinners, even a weekend at a bed and breakfast upstate. All while you were in the hospital." My hands clenched, a movement that would have been impossible a month ago. There's more. Catherine's been making some interesting financial moves. She opened a new account at a different bank, just her name on it. Been moving small amounts from your joint accounts. Nothing major yet, probably testing the waters. But it's documented. Every transfer. "Evidence," I whispered. James leaned closer. "All of it. Time-stamped, photographed, witnessed. When you're ready, we'll have enough to bury her." But I wasn't ready yet. I needed to be stronger, needed to be able to face her on my own terms. Weeks turned into months. My progress continued, slow but steady. I could sit up on my own, could feed myself with some difficulty, could speak in short sentences without too much strain, and Catherine's visits dwindled to once every 2 weeks, then once a month. "I'm so proud of how far you have come," she said during one of these rare appearances, but her eyes were on her phone, "The doctors say you might be able to come home soon." "Not yet," I managed. "More therapy." "Of course, whatever you need." She was relieved, I could tell. My absence from home made her life easier. No need to maintain the charade of devoted wife, no need to hide Daniel's presence. What she didn't know was that the PI James hired had photographed Daniel's car in our driveway multiple times, had documented Catherine and Daniel leaving our house together, walking hand in hand like they owned the place. They thought they owned the place. "The house," I said to James during his next visit. "What about it?" Check for Changes. James nodded slowly. You think they've been redecorating? Our bedroom. He understood. I'll have the PI take a closer look. A week later, he returned with photographs. Our master bedroom, visible through the window, new sheets on the bed, sheets I'd never bought, men's shoes by the closet that weren't mine, a rubber on the bathroom counter that wasn't my brand. Daniel was living in my house. Son of a bitch, James muttered. She's moved him in. I said nothing. My silence now was by choice, not paralysis. I was saving my words, hoarding them for when they would matter most. Marcus, we have enough. We can go to the police. We can file for divorce. We can... Wait, I said. Wait for what? She's living with another man in your house? The plan, I whispered, needs finishing. James studied me. You've got something specific in mind, don't you? I nodded. Care to share? I told him. It took a while. My speech was still halting, and I tired easily. But I laid out my plan piece by piece like a prosecutor presenting a case to the jury. When I finished, James was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed. You magnificent bastard. You've been planning this the whole time, haven't you? I allowed myself a small smile. While you were lying there, trapped in your own body, listening to her plot against you, you were planning this. Good lawyers always plan. That they do. All right, partner, let's finish this. The next month was dedicated to preparation. I worked twice as hard in therapy, driven by purpose. Margaret marveled at my progress. It's like you have somewhere to be, she observed. I did. James coordinated everything. The lawyer, the documentation, the schedule. All the pieces were moving into position. And Catherine, blissfully unaware, continued her increasingly rare visits. You're looking so much better, she said during her last visit, and I noticed she'd stopped wearing her wedding ring. I think it might be time to start discussing your discharge. Getting you home. Yes, I agreed, home. She smiled, that beautiful, treacherous smile that had fooled me for years. I've been making preparations. Setting up the bedroom on the first floor, hiring a nurse for day shifts. It'll be perfect. Can't wait, I said, and my voice was steady now, clear. She didn't notice the steel in it. Oh, I almost forgot. There's going to be a small welcome home party, just close friends and family. Your parents are coming in from California. James will be there, of course. A few neighbors. I want to celebrate your recovery properly. A party, even better. Sounds wonderful, I said. It will be. It really will be. She kissed my cheek, and the gesture that once would have filled me with warmth now left me cold. I have to go. Long drive back, but I'll see you next week for the discharge planning meeting. I'll be here. Perfect. Love you, Marcus. She walked out and I watched her go. Watched the woman I had loved with everything I had. The woman who had whispered about my death with her lover. The woman who had moved that lover into my bed. My wife. For now. James arrived an hour later. Well? The party, I said. It's perfect. I thought you'd like that. Everything ready on your end? I nodded. The physical therapy had done its work. I could walk now, slowly, with a cane but independently. I could speak clearly. I could hold documents, sign papers, look people in the eye and command their attention. I was ready. Tomorrow morning, James said, we file everything. The divorce papers, the civil suit, the report to the Financial Crimes Division about the account transfers. It all goes live the day before your party. And Daniel? His firm's board receives the documentation of his relationship with a married client and the improper financial advice he's been giving her. Conflict of interest like that, his career is over. The house? Your name's on the deed. She can't sell it without your signature, and she definitely can't gift it to her boyfriend. We've frozen everything. I took a deep breath. Then we're ready. Almost. There's one more thing. James pulled out a flash drive. The hospital footage, Catherine and Daniel in your room, the intimate moments, the planning conversations. It's all here. Audio was reconstructed from lip reading, not admissible in court, but devastating for public opinion. The party, I said. We show it at the party. James raised an eyebrow. That's a bit dramatic, don't you think? She planned my murder in front of me while I lay helpless. She deserves dramatic. He considered this, then nodded slowly. Okay, we do it your way. But Marcus, are you sure about this? Once we pull this trigger, there's no going back. Your marriage, your reputation, everything changes. My marriage ended in that hospital room when she chose him, when she planned my death. Fair enough, James stood. Get some rest, partner. Big week ahead. After he left, I sat by the window, looking out at the grounds of Clearwater. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Beautiful, peaceful, so different from the storm that was coming. I thought about Catherine, about the woman I had married, the woman I had loved. Had she ever loved me back? Or had I been a means to an end from the beginning, a stable career, a nice house, a comfortable life? I thought about Daniel, a man willing to seduce a married woman, to help plan her husband's death, to move into another man's home. I thought about myself, the man I had been before the accident, trusting, loving, blind to betrayal. That man was dead now, killed by his wife's whispered treachery. The man who remained was different, harder, more calculating, but also more clear-eyed. Catherine had underestimated me from the moment she'd opened her mouth in that hospital room. She'd seen my paralysis as powerlessness, my silence as absence. She'd forgotten that silence can be a weapon, and mine was about to cut her world in half. The day of my discharge dawned gray and overcast, as if the sky itself knew what was coming. James picked me up in his black BMW, the same car we'd driven to countless court cases, countless victories. Now it was carrying me to the most important case of my life. You nervous? He asked as we pulled out of Clearwater's parking lot. No, I said, and I wasn't. The time for nervousness had passed. This was the execution now. Good, everything's in place. The papers were filed yesterday. Catherine's been served. Should have gotten them this morning. I smiled. What time is the party? 2 o'clock. It's 11 now. We've got 3 hours to get you settled and ready. Perfect. We drove in silence for a while, the familiar landscape of upstate New York rolling past. I watched it, really watched it, appreciating the trees and fields and small towns in a way I never had before. Near-death experiences will do that to you. Marcus, James said as we approached the city, I need to tell you something. What? I've seen the footage, the hospital footage, all of it. I said nothing. The things she said, the way she talked about you like you were already gone. He shook his head. I've been practicing law for 30 years. I've seen some bad people do some terrible things, but this is something else. She thought I couldn't hear. That's not an excuse. That's never an excuse. No, it's not. We reached my house, our house, and I felt a surge of emotion I hadn't expected. Anger, yes, betrayal, certainly, but also a strange kind of grief. Grief for the man who had left this house on that Tuesday morning, thinking he'd return to Thai food and a loving wife. That man was never coming back. Ready? James asked. I gripped my cane. Let's go. We entered through the front door, my front door, and I was immediately assaulted by evidence of Daniel's presence. His jacket on the coat rack, his shoes by the door. A photo on the hallway table of Catherine and Daniel, smiling, taken somewhere tropical. They'd been on vacation. While I lay in rehabilitation, learning to whisper my wife's name, they'd been on vacation. Easy, James murmured. Stay focused. I took a breath. Focused. Catherine, I called out, my voice echoing through the house that was no longer just mine. Footsteps upstairs, quick, panicked. Marcus? Marcus, oh my God, you're here. She appeared at the top of the stairs, her face a carefully constructed mask of joy, but her eyes were worried. I didn't realize you were coming early. I thought, James, you said 2 o'clock. Change of plans, James said smoothly. Marcus wanted to get settled before the guests arrived. Of course, of course. She hurried down the stairs, and I noticed she was wearing a robe. At 11 in the morning. I was getting ready for the party. Give me a minute to change, and I'll help you get comfortable. Take your time, I said. She rushed back upstairs, and I heard a door close. Moments later, muffled voices. She wasn't alone up there. James and I exchanged a look. Right on schedule, he murmured. I moved through the house, cataloging changes. New throw pillows, a different coffee maker, books on the shelf that weren't mine, financial planning guides, investment strategies, Daniel's influences everywhere. In the living room, I noticed the setup for the party. Catering trays covered in plastic, champagne glasses, a banner that read, "Welcome home, Marcus." Touching, James said dryly. I said nothing. I was looking at the television screen mounted on the wall, large, high definition, perfect for showing footage. Catherine came downstairs 20 minutes later, fully dressed in a tasteful blue dress. Alone. Daniel's gone, Embotebwed. She froze for just a moment. So brief that if I hadn't been watching for it, I'd have missed it. What? What do you mean? Out the back, while you were dressing. Marcus, I don't know what you're... Catherine. My voice was quiet but firm. Let's not. She stared at me, and I watched the calculations happening behind her eyes. How much did I know? How much could I prove? What was the smart play? We should talk, she finally said. Before the party. Just us. No, I said. We'll talk later, after. After what? I just looked at her. James cleared his throat. Marcus, why don't I help you get ready? Catherine, I believe the caterers are arriving soon. She nodded slowly, her eyes never leaving mine. Yes, they are. Marcus, whatever you think you know. Later, Catherine. She opened her mouth, closed it, then turned and walked toward the kitchen. But I saw her hands shaking as she reached for the counter. Good. The next 2 hours were a strange kind of torture. Guests arrived, our friends, our neighbors, our families. My parents flew in from California, embraced me with tears in their eyes. We thought we'd lost you, my mother sobbed. When they called about the accident, we thought, I'm here, I said. I'm still here. Catherine played hostess, circulating through the room with a champagne glass, accepting congratulations on her devoted care, her unwavering support during my recovery. She never left your side, I heard someone say. A saint, that woman, another agreed. And Catherine smiled and demurred and played her part perfectly. At 2:30, when the house was full and the champagne was flowing, James caught my eye from across the room. I nodded. He walked to the entertainment center, fiddled with something, and suddenly the large television screen flickered to life. If I could have everyone's attention, James called out, Marcus has something he'd like to share with you all. The room quieted. Catherine looked up from her conversation, confusion crossing her face. What's this? She asked. I stepped forward, leaning on my cane, and faced the assembled crowd. First, I said, my voice clear and strong, I want to thank everyone for coming. Your support during my recovery has meant the world to me. Murmurs of appreciation. I also want to take this moment to share something with you. A truth that I learned during my time in the hospital. A truth that has shaped everything that's happened since what? Catherine had gone pale. You see, I wasn't entirely unconscious during my coma. I had what's called locked-in syndrome. My body was paralyzed, but my mind was fully awake. I could hear everything happening around me. Every conversation. Every whisper. The room had gone silent. And I heard some very interesting things. Marcus, Catherine said quickly, you've been through so much trauma. The doctor said your memory might be... My memory is fine, Catherine. Clearer than it's ever been. I nodded to James, who pressed play. The footage began. Hospital room. Catherine and Daniel standing by my bed. Close. Too close. The footage was silent, but the lip-reading subtitles James had added told the story clearly. When he's gone, everything is ours. I can't wait, baby. Gasps filled the room. More footage. Catherine discussing my insurance policy, the value of the house, the timeline for my death. It's taking too long. We don't have time, Cat. More footage. The kiss, the planning, the betrayal. When it ended, the silence was deafening. Catherine stood frozen, her champagne glass trembling in her hand. This is out of context, she finally managed. Marcus, you're confused. Your brain injury is documented, I said, by 3 different neurologists, all confirming that my cognitive function is completely intact. My memory is reliable. My testimony is credible. I pulled out an envelope. These are divorce papers, filed yesterday. You should have received your copy this morning. Her face crumpled. Also filed yesterday, a civil suit for fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. My lawyers will be in touch. Marcus, please. And this morning, a report was filed with the Financial Crimes Division regarding the unauthorized transfers from our joint accounts to your personal account. Also, Daniel's firm has received a full report on his conduct. She was crying now, real tears, though I couldn't tell if they were from remorse or fear. I loved you, I said, and my voice finally cracked. I loved you with everything I had. And you talked about my death like it was an inconvenience. Marcus, in that room, standing over my bed, while I lay there, unable to move, unable to speak, you planned my death with your lover. My mother was crying. My father looked like he wanted to murder someone. Our friends stood in shocked silence. So no, Catherine, we're not talking later. We're done talking. You can communicate with me through my attorneys from now on. I turned to the room. I apologized to everyone for the interruption in our celebration, but I thought you deserved to know the truth, the real story, not the narrative Catherine has been carefully crafting. James stepped forward. I think it's best if everyone gives Marcus some privacy now, Catherine. Perhaps you should leave. Leave? This is my house too. Not anymore, I said. Check your papers. The house stays with me. You can collect your belongings this week under supervision. She stared at me with something like horror, like she was seeing me for the first time. Who are you? She whispered. I'm the man you tried to kill, I answered. The man who survived. She fled. Out the front door, car keys in hand, feeding away from the wreckage of her carefully constructed life. In the aftermath, I was surrounded by support. My parents held me. Friends apologized for not seeing through her act. James fielded questions from concerned guests. But I felt strangely empty. This wasn't triumph. It wasn't satisfaction. It was just the end. The end of a marriage built on lies. The end of a future I'd believed in. The end of the man I used to be. But also perhaps the beginning of something else. Standing in my living room, surrounded by the people who truly cared for me, I realized that Catherine had given me something unexpected with her betrayal. Freedom. Freedom from illusions about love. Freedom from a marriage that was poison dressed as devotion. Freedom to become whoever I wanted to be next. And as the last guest left and the house fell quiet, I poured myself a glass of the champagne Catherine had bought for my homecoming celebration. I raised it to the empty room. To truth, I said, and to silence that speaks louder than words. Then I drank. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Beautiful. A new day ending, a new life beginning. In the days that followed the party, the silence was different. Not the imposed silence of my hospital imprisonment, but a chosen silence, a healing silence. The house, now free of Catherine's presence and Daniel's intrusion, felt like mine again for the first time. James handled the legal proceedings with surgical precision. Catherine, through her attorney, had tried to contest the divorce terms, claiming emotional distress and manipulation. She wants 50%, James told me during one of our evening debriefs. Says you publicly humiliated her, damaged her reputation, caused her emotional trauma. I laughed. It felt good to laugh, even if it was bitter. And Daniel? Fired, effective immediately. His firm didn't want the scandal. His professional license is under review. Good. There's more. Catherine's trying to spin a story. Says you've been abusive, controlling, that Daniel was her emotional support during a difficult marriage. I felt the anger rise, hot and sharp. But I breathed through it. Let her spin, I said. Truth has its own gravity. And it did. The hospital footage had spread, as these things do in the age of social media. Someone at the party had recorded it, posted it online. The narrative Catherine tried to construct couldn't stand against the evidence of her own words. When he's gone, everything is ours. Those words, now immortalized in digital form, destroyed her credibility more effectively than any courtroom argument could. But the legal victories, satisfying as they were, didn't fill the void inside me. I'd won the case, but lost the marriage. Lost the future I'd planned. Lost the version of myself that had believed in unconditional love. Dr. Patterson called to check on me regularly. "Recovery isn't linear, Marcus," she said during one call. "And healing from betrayal is its own form of rehabilitation." I know. "Have you considered therapy? A professional to talk to?" "Maybe. Soon. Don't wait too long. The body knows how to heal itself, but sometimes the mind needs guidance." She was right, of course. My nights were plagued with dreams. Not nightmares exactly, but worse. Dreams where Catherine and I were happy, where the accident never happened, where I woke up in our bed with her warm beside me. Dreams of a life that never existed. Those dreams were torture. During the days I worked on rebuilding, physical therapy continued, and I was walking with minimal assistance now. I went back to the office part-time, and my partners welcomed me with something like reverence. "Never seen anyone fight back like you did," Tom, my other senior partner, said. "From a hospital bed, no less." "I had good help. You had James, and you had your own brilliant mind. Don't sell yourself short, Marcus." But I didn't feel brilliant. I felt hollowed out. Like the man who'd emerged from that hospital was a facsimile of the original, constructed from broken pieces hastily glued together. One evening, about a month after the party, I was sitting in my home office when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. James usually called before coming over, and my parents had returned to California with promises to visit soon. I opened the door to find the night nurse from the hospital standing on my porch. "Mr. Chen," she said, "I hope I'm not intruding." "Nurse." I searched for her name. In all those nights she'd tended to me, I'd never learned it. Sarah Winters." She smiled gently. "I know we were never properly introduced. You were otherwise occupied." "Please come in." She stepped inside, looking around with quiet interest. "Nice place. It suits you." "Thank you. Can I offer you something? Coffee? Tea?" "Tea would be lovely." I led her to the kitchen, put the kettle on, and we sat at the breakfast bar. "I saw the news," she said, "about your wife, about everything. Hard to miss." "I'm glad you got justice, Marcus. Can I call you Marcus?" "Of course, but son." "I'm glad you got justice. What she did, in all my years of nursing, I've never seen anything like it." I poured the tea, grateful to have something to do with my hands. "I'm grateful for what you did," I said. "The footage. Without that, you would have found another way. You're resourceful." She took a sip of tea. "But I didn't come here to talk about the case." No, I came because I've been worried about you." I looked at her, surprised. "You spent weeks in my care, Marcus. Weeks where I watched your vital signs, monitored your responses, saw your body react to every word spoken around you. I got to know you in a way that most people don't get to know another person. The core of you, without the social masks." I was quiet, waiting. And what I saw was a good man, a man who loved his wife, who trusted her, who believed in the goodness of people. I saw that goodness even in his silence, even in his pain. She set down her tea. "I'm worried that man is lost now, buried under justifiable anger and betrayal. And that would be a tragedy, Marcus, a real tragedy." "I don't know how to find him again," I admitted. And it was the first honest thing I'd said to anyone in weeks. You don't find him, you rebuild him. Like you rebuilt your body. Like you learned to speak again. Like you took those first steps. You do it piece by piece, day by day, choosing to be the man you want to be rather than the man your trauma made you. That sounds exhausting. It is, but it's also the only way forward. She finished her tea and stood. "I'm not here to tell you how to live your life, Marcus. You're clearly capable of that. But I wanted you to know that someone sees you, the real you, not the victim, not the avenger, just you." She moved toward the door, then paused. "And Marcus, what your wife did, that's not about you, that's about her. Her brokenness, her lack. You gave her everything, and she couldn't hold it. That's not your failure. That's hers." After she left, I sat alone in my kitchen for a long time. Then I picked up the phone and made an appointment with a therapist. The therapist's name was Dr. Ellen Cho, and she had kind eyes and a direct manner. So, she said during our first session, tell me about the silence. The silence was shown. You spent weeks unable to speak, unable to move, locked in your own body while your world crumbled around you. That's a profound experience of silence. What did it teach you? I thought about it, really thought about it. That silence isn't emptiness, I finally said. It's full of truth, full of pain, full of clarity. And now I can speak, but I don't know what to say. She nodded. That's a common experience after trauma. The words are there, but they don't feel like enough. They don't. So maybe we start with the silence. Maybe we sit with it together without trying to fill it, without trying to make it mean something, just letting it be what it is. We sat in silence for several minutes. It was strange at first, uncomfortable, but then something shifted. The silence became a space rather than a void, a space where I could exist without performance, without narrative, without having to be the victim or the survivor or anything other than a man sitting in a room, breathing. How do you feel? Dr. Cho asked finally. Present, I said, just present. That's a good start, Marcus. That's a very good start. Over the following weeks, therapy became my new rehabilitation, not for my body, but for my soul. We talked about Catherine, about love, about trust, about the stories we tell ourselves and the stories that are true. You built a narrative, Dr. Cho observed during one session, the devoted husband, the stable provider, the man who had it all figured out. Yes. And when that narrative shattered, so did your sense of self. Yes. But here's the thing, Marcus. That narrative was always just a story. It wasn't you. You're still here underneath all the stories. The question is, who do you want to be now that the old story is finished? It was a question I'd been avoiding because the answer was terrifying in its openness. I could be anyone. I could be bitter. I could be vengeful. I could be closed off, cynical, protected, or I could choose differently. The divorce was finalized in the spring. Catherine got far less than she'd hoped for. Her behavior had been too well documented, too clearly damaging. She took some money, some furniture, and the shame of a very public downfall. I heard through mutual friends that she and Daniel had split. Apparently, their relationship didn't survive the loss of the money and comfort they'd been planning to steal. Poetic justice. But I didn't gloat, couldn't gloat, because in destroying Catherine's life, I'd also had to destroy the life we'd shared. Every good memory was now tainted. Every moment of joy retroactively poisoned by the knowledge of her capability for betrayal. That was the cost of justice, the collateral damage of truth. But slowly, I began to build something new. I returned to work full-time, threw myself into cases with a new kind of intensity, not the desperate workaholism of a man hiding from home, but the focused purpose of someone who'd rediscovered their calling. You're different, Tom observed one day. Is that bad? No, just different, sharper, but also kinder? Does that make sense? It did. The brush with death, the betrayal, the slow climb back, they'd stripped away the unnecessary. What remained was clearer, more authentic. I started seeing Sarah for coffee occasionally. Not romantically, I wasn't ready for that, might never be, but as friends. She'd seen me at my most vulnerable, and that created a bond neither of us fully understood but both respected. How's the therapy, she asked during one of our meetups. Hard, good, both. That's healing for you. You were right, what you said about rebuilding. She smiled. I'm glad. But it's slower than I expected. I keep waiting to wake up and feel whole, fixed. That's not how it works, Marcus. You don't get fixed. You just get different. You learn to carry the cracks differently, to let light through them sometimes. That's very poetic. 20 years of nursing. You see a lot of breaking and a lot of mending. You learn things. I learned things too. I learned that trust, once shattered, doesn't rebuild quickly. That I flinched when people were too kind, suspicious of ulterior motives, that I needed to work on that. I learned that anger, while justified, becomes toxic if held too long, that I needed to release it in stages, like a slow exhale. I learned that my identity had been too wrapped up in being a husband, in being loved, in being needed, that I needed to find out who I was as just Marcus, standing alone. And I learned that standing alone didn't mean being lonely, that it meant being grounded enough in yourself that when others entered your life, it was a choice rather than a necessity. One evening, almost a year after my accident, I sat on my back porch watching the sunset. Same sky, same colors, but I was different. The man who'd driven to that intersection on that Tuesday morning was gone. The man who'd lain in that hospital bed listening to his wife plan his death was gone too. Even the man who'd exposed her at the party, full of righteous fury, he was fading. In their place was someone new, someone who'd learned that silence could be strength. That truth, while painful, was the only foundation worth building on. That betrayal, while devastating, didn't have to define the rest of his story. I pulled out my phone and typed a message to Dr. Cho. Thank you for today's session. I think I finally understand what you meant about not getting fixed. I'm not broken anymore, but I'm also not the same. I'm just different, and that's okay. She responded quickly. Different isn't less, Marcus. Sometimes it's more. Proud of you. I smiled and put the phone away. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Beautiful. And for the first time in a long time, I felt beautiful too. Not in a vain way, but in an honest one. Like a piece of pottery that had been shattered and mended with gold. The cracks visible, honored. Part of the new design. Catherine had tried to destroy me with her silence, her secrets, her betrayal. But here I was, still standing, still breathing, still becoming. And that, I realized, was the truest form of revenge. Not the legal victories, not the public humiliation, not the financial settlements, but this quiet continuation, this persistent becoming, this life lived well despite her worst attempts. That was justice, and it was mine. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon, another Tuesday, though I'd stopped being superstitious about the day, when my secretary buzzed through to my office. Mr. Chen, there's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's important. Her name is Lisa Reeves. Reeves, Daniel's last name. Send her in. The woman who entered my office was younger than I'd expected, mid-30s perhaps. She had the tired look of someone who hadn't slept well in months, and she clutched her purse like a lifeline. Mr. Chen, she said, thank you for seeing me. I know this is unorthodox. Please sit down. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee? Water, please. I poured her a glass, noting how her hands trembled slightly as she took it. You're Daniel's sister, I said, not a question. His wife, actually. Ex-wife now. The divorce was finalized last week. Daniel was married, had been married. While he was sleeping with my wife, planning our future assets, moving into my bed. I sat back in my chair, absorbing this. I see. No, you don't. Not yet. That's why I'm here. She took a deep breath. I know what my ex-husband did. I know about Catherine, about the hospital, about everything. I've been following the case. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Thank you, but I'm not here for sympathy, Mr. Chen. I'm here because I have information. Information I think you need. About? She opened her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. I found these in Daniel's things when I was cleaning out his home office. He'd hidden them, but not well enough. She slid the envelope across the desk. I think you should see them. I opened the envelope and pulled out a stack of papers, emails printed out, between Daniel and Catherine. The dates, Lisa said. Look at the dates. I looked. My stomach dropped. The earliest email was dated 3 years ago. 3 years, not months. Years. They knew each other before the accident, I said, my voice hollow. They'd been involved for 3 years, Mr. Chen. Planning, waiting. The accident wasn't their first opportunity. It was just their best one. I read through the emails, each one a fresh knife to the heart. He suspects nothing. Perfect husband, perfect fool. Patience, Kat. It has to look natural. What if we stage something? Make it look like an accident? Too risky. We wait. Eventually opportunity will present itself. My hands were shaking. They'd planned this for years. They'd been waiting for a chance to eliminate me, to take everything I'd built. The car accident wasn't opportunity knocking. It was fate delivering their dreams on a silver platter. There's more, Lisa said gently. Keep reading. I did, and it got worse. His life insurance policy pays double for accidental death. The firm partnership is worth millions. Once he's gone, you'll have access to everything. We'll wait a decent interval after his death, 6 months, a year, then we'll be together publicly. They'd had contingencies, backup plans. They'd researched the laws, the financial implications, the social optics. This wasn't a passionate affair that spun out of control. This was premeditated. This was calculated. This was evil. Why are you showing me this? I asked Lisa. Because justice wasn't fully served. Yes, you exposed them. Yes, Catherine lost the divorce settlement. Yes, Daniel lost his job. But they planned murder, Mr. Chen. They wanted you dead. And they walked away with embarrassment and inconvenience, not consequences that matched the crime. She was right. What they'd done, what they'd planned to do, it wasn't just adultery or fraud. It was conspiracy to commit murder. What do you want me to do with this? What you do best, Lisa said. Build a case. Take it to the authorities. Make sure they face real consequences. I looked at the emails again. The evidence was damning, yes. But would it be enough? Could we prove that they'd taken concrete steps toward harming me? Or would it be seen as dark fantasies whispered between lovers but never acted upon? I need to think about this, I said. Of course, take your time. She stood. But Mr. Chen? Marcus? They were going to kill you. Maybe not with their own hands, but they were actively hoping for your death, planning for it, waiting for it. And when you lay in that hospital bed unable to move or speak, they saw their chance. That's not something that should go unpunished. After she left, I sat with the emails for hours, reading and rereading, trying to reconcile the woman who'd written these words with the woman I'd married. Perfect husband, perfect fool. That hurt more than anything else. Not just that she'd betrayed me, but that she'd thought me stupid. That she'd married me seeing me as a mark, a target, a means to an end. Had she ever loved me? Had any moment of our 12 years together been real? Or had it all been performance, waiting for the final act? I called James. I need you to come over, now. There's something you need to see. He arrived within the hour, and I watched his face as he read through the emails. Watched the shock, the anger, the dawning horror. Jesus Christ, Marcus, this changes everything. I know. This isn't affair and fraud anymore. This is conspiracy. This is attempt. I know. He set down the papers and looked at me. What do you want to do? I don't know. And I didn't. Part of me wanted justice. Real justice. The kind that came with courtrooms and prison sentences. But another part of me was tired. So tired of Catherine and Daniel and the whole sordid mess. Did I want to spend more years of my life pursuing this? Reliving it? Being defined by it? Talk to me, James said. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that I've spent the last year fighting for justice. And I got it. I exposed them. I protected myself, but this, I gestured to the emails, this would mean starting over. More lawyers, more investigations, more testimony, more making my trauma public. It would also mean that they couldn't hurt anyone else, that they'd face real consequences for what they planned. Yes. But is that what I need? Or is it what I think I should need? James was quiet for a moment. What does your therapist say about revenge? I almost laughed. That it's a dish best served not at all. That the best revenge is a life well lived. All the cliches. And what do you say? I say I don't want to be the man who can't let go, but I also don't want to be the man who lets murderers walk free. They're not murderers, Marcus. You're alive. Not for lack of trying on their part. He couldn't argue with that. Can I take these, he asked. Have our criminal law specialist look at them? Get a professional opinion on what charges might stick? Yes, do that. And Marcus, whatever you decide, I'll support you. If you want to prosecute, we'll prosecute. If you want to let it go, we'll let it go. This is your life, your healing, your choice, Asheom. After he left, I sat in the gathering darkness thinking, 3 years. They'd plotted against me for 3 years while I went to work, paid the mortgage, loved my wife, lived my life in blissful ignorance. Every dinner we'd shared, every holiday, every time I'd looked at Catherine and thought how lucky I was. During all of it, she'd been waiting, hoping, planning for my death. The betrayal I'd thought I'd processed came rushing back, fresh and raw. I'd grieved for my marriage, but I hadn't grieved for this, for the realization that my marriage had never existed at all, that I'd been living in a fiction authored by my own wife. I called Dr. Cho that night. I'm struggling, I told her. What's happening? I told her about Lisa's visit, about the emails, about the 3 years of conspiracy. How do you feel, she asked. Stupid, angry, hurt, violated all over again. That makes sense. You're processing a secondary betrayal. The scope of the deception just expanded significantly. I thought I was healing. You are. But healing isn't linear. New information can reopen wounds. That doesn't mean you've failed or regressed. It means you're human. What do I do? What do you want to do? I don't know. Part of me wants to destroy them. Completely. Make them pay for every single day they plotted against me. Part of me just wants to be done. To move on. To not let them take up any more space in my life. Both impulses are valid, but they can't both be right. Can't they? Maybe the question isn't which impulse is right, but which one serves the man you want to become. I thought about that long after we hung up. The man I wanted to become, not the man I had been, trusting to the point of blindness, not the man I'd become after the accident, angry to the point of obsession, but someone new, someone balanced, someone who could hold justice and mercy, anger and peace in the same hands. Could that man prosecute Catherine and Daniel? Or would doing so trap him in the past forever? I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my desk and wrote, not legal briefs, not accusations, but a letter to myself, to the version of me who'd lain in that hospital bed, terrified and betrayed. Dear Marcus, you survived. Not just the accident, not just the betrayal, but the aftermath. The man you are now is stronger than you could have imagined in those dark hospital nights. Catherine and Daniel planned your death. That's a fact you now know. But they didn't succeed. You're alive. You're healing. You're becoming someone new. The question is, what will you do with this second chance? Will you spend it pursuing the justice you deserve? Or will you spend it building the life you desire? These aren't the same thing, Marcus. Justice looks backward. Life looks forward. And you can't walk into the future while constantly looking over your shoulder at the past. I don't have the answer for you, but I trust you to find it. You've proven yourself in the courtroom and in the hospital room. Now prove yourself in the quieter battle, the battle for your own peace. Whatever you choose, know this. You are not the fool she thought you were. You are not the victim she tried to make you. You are not the avenger she forced you to become. You are Marcus Chen, survivor, fighter, man in the process of becoming. And that is more than enough. I read the letter back to myself as dawn broke through my office window. Then I made my decision. I met with James, Dr. Cho, and Lisa Reeves in my living room a week later. An unusual gathering, my lawyer, my therapist, my ex-wife's sister-in-law, but the situation called for unusual measures. I've made a decision, I told them, about what to do with the evidence. They waited. I'm not going to prosecute. James opened his mouth to object, but I held up my hand. Let me explain. I've spent the last week thinking about nothing else. I've consulted with our criminal law expert, and I've been honest with myself about what I want. And what do you want? Dr. Cho asked. I want my life back, not the life I had before. That's gone, and I don't want to recreate it, but a life that's mine, a life that's not defined by what Catherine did to me. Pursuing criminal charges wouldn't have to define you, James argued. Wouldn't it? James, I've been the man who exposed his cheating wife for almost a year now. That's how people see me. That's how I've seen myself. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being a cautionary tale, tired of being a victim, tired of being the wronged husband who got justice. Where I am. Lisa spoke up. What about them? They should face consequences. They have. Daniel lost his career. His reputation is ruined. Your divorce took him for everything he had. He's done. And Catherine? Lisa pressed. Catherine lost her marriage, her financial security, her social standing. The footage of her planning my death is public record. She'll carry that shame forever. That's not the same as prison, James said. No, it's not. But here's what I keep coming back to. Pursuing criminal charges means years of legal proceedings, years of reliving the betrayal, years of my life spent focused on punishing them rather than healing myself. I stood and walked to the window. I was in that hospital for weeks, unable to move, unable to speak, and in that silence I learned something about time, about how precious it is, how limited. I nearly lost my life, and I refuse to spend what remains of it in courtrooms, fighting battles that will only keep me tethered to the worst experience of my life. So they just get away with it? Lisa asked, and there was bitterness in her voice. Do they? Daniel is jobless, divorced and disgraced. Catherine is divorced, publicly humiliated and alone. Is that getting away with it? It's not prison. No, but here's what I know about prison. When you prosecute someone, you don't just send them to prison. You send yourself too, to a prison of legal obligations, court dates, testimony, and reliving trauma. And I've been in enough prisons. The hospital bed was one. The marriage was another. I won't voluntarily enter a third. Dr. Cho had been quiet, observing. Now she spoke. Marcus, I think you're making this decision from a healthy place. You're choosing freedom over justice, which is a profound act of self-care. But I want to make sure, is there any part of you that's just tired, that wants to give up the fight because it's hard? I thought about it honestly. Maybe. But is that wrong, to recognize that some fights aren't worth fighting? To choose peace over punishment? It's not wrong at all. I just want to make sure it's a choice you can live with. I can. I have to. Because the alternative, spending the next several years in criminal prosecution, that's not living. That's existing in the shadow of what they did. Lisa stood. I respect your decision, Marcus. I don't agree with it, but I respect it, and I hope you find the peace you were looking for. Thank you for bringing me the evidence, I said. Knowing the full truth, even as painful as it is, helps me understand that I'm not the one who was crazy. I'm not the one who was delusional. You never were. After she left, James and Dr. Cho remained. I have the emails locked in my safe, I told James. They'll stay there. An insurance if Catherine or Daniel ever tries anything again. But I'm not acting on them. And if they come after you, try to sue for defamation or emotional distress, then I'll defend myself, but I won't be the aggressor anymore. James nodded slowly. Okay, I support your decision. And Marcus, I'm proud of you. This takes more strength than prosecuting would. Does it? Absolutely, revenge is easy. Forgiveness, or at least release, that's hard. After James left, Dr. Cho stayed for a moment. How do you feel, she asked. Lighter, is that strange? Not at all. You've made a decision to put down a burden you've been carrying. Of course you feel lighter. I haven't forgiven them. I want to be clear about that. I don't forgive what they did. Forgiveness isn't a requirement for release, Marcus. You can release them from your daily thoughts without pardoning their actions. You can move on without absolving them. That's what I want, to move on. Then you're on the right path. After she left, I sat alone in my house, fully mine now, and felt the weight of the decisions settle around me. Not prosecuting felt both right and difficult. The lawyer in me wanted justice, wanted the full force of the law brought against people who had plotted murder. But the man I was becoming wanted something else. Peace, closure, a future not shaped by the past. I went to my safe and pulled out the manila envelope with the emails, held it in my hands, feeling the weight of 3 years of betrayal distilled into paper. I could burn them, destroy the evidence, let it all go completely. But I didn't. Instead, I put them back in the safe, locked it, and put the key in my drawer. Insurance, like I told James, just in case. But with any luck, they'd stay in that safe forever, relics of a war I'd chosen not to fight. I poured myself a drink and raised it to the empty room. To choices, I said, and the freedom to make them. Outside, the sun was setting again. Always setting, always rising. The world turning despite our human dramas. I drank, letting the warmth spread through me. Tomorrow I would start again. Not as the wronged husband, not as the man who'd been betrayed, just as Marcus, whoever that turned out to be. And for the first time in a very long time, I was curious to find out. 6 months after I decided not to prosecute, I found myself in a routine that felt almost normal. Work during the day, therapy once a week, coffee with Sarah every other Saturday, evenings spent reading or walking through the neighborhood. It was a quiet life, perhaps too quiet. You're isolating, Dr. Cho observed during one of our sessions. I'm healing. Those aren't the same thing. Healing requires connection. You're protecting yourself from pain by avoiding connection altogether. Is that so terrible? After what happened? It's understandable, but it's also limiting. Marcus, you've done incredible work processing the trauma, but at some point, you have to rejoin the living. I am living. Are you, or are you existing safely? I didn't have an answer for that. It was Sarah who finally pushed me out of my comfort zone. I'm going to a gallery opening next Friday, she said during one of our coffee meetups. Local artists, you should come. Art openings aren't really my thing. What is your thing these days, Marcus? Work, home, therapy, coffee with you. That's not a life, that's a holding pattern. She leaned forward. Look, I'm not saying you need to date or party or any of that, but you need to be around people, new people, people who don't know your story. Everyone knows my story. That footage went viral. Not everyone. And even those who do, they don't know you. Not really. They know the narrative. They know the wronged husband. They don't know the man who's funny and smart and kind. You think I'm funny? Occasionally, when you're not being morbidly introspective. She grinned. Come to the gallery opening. 1 hour. If you hate it, you leave. But at least try. So I went. The gallery was in a converted warehouse downtown, all exposed brick and industrial lighting. The art was modern, abstract pieces that probably meant something profound, but looked to me like expensive accidents. I was nursing a glass of wine and contemplating a painting that may or may not have been hung upside down when a voice beside me said, "You look like you're trying to solve a math problem." I turned to find a woman standing next to me, about my age, with warm brown eyes and a smile that suggested she found most things amusing. Is it that obvious? A bit. You've been staring at this piece for 5 minutes with increasingly furrowed brows. I'm trying to figure out what it means. Does it have to mean something? Isn't that the point of art? To mean something? She considered the painting at biting. I think the point of art is to make you feel something. What do you feel looking at this? Confused. She laughed, a genuine sound, unexpected and warm. Then it's working. Confusion is a feeling. That seems like a low bar for success. Maybe, or maybe we set too high a bar for everything else. She extended her hand. I'm Maya. Marcus? Nice to meet you, Marcus. Are you an artist? Lawyer. Ah, that explains the analysis paralysis. Does it? In my experience, lawyers want everything to have clear meaning and precedent. Art doesn't work that way. What do you do? I'm a teacher, 4th grade. That seems challenging. It is, but 4th graders are refreshingly honest. They'll tell you exactly what they think about your painting. That's ugly, or that's pretty, or can I go to the bathroom? No pretense. I found myself smiling, genuinely smiling. Are you here with someone? I asked, then immediately regretted it. Was that too forward? Was I trying to pick her up? I didn't even know if I was ready for that. My friend Sarah, actually, but she abandoned me to network with some sculptor. Something about a commission for the hospital where she works. Sarah, of course. I know Sarah, I said. She's the reason I'm here. Really? Small world. Maya's eyes sparkled. So you're the Marcus she's always talking about. She talks about me? Occasionally. Says you're one of the strongest people she knows. That you've been through something terrible and come out the other side. I tensed. Here it came. The recognition, the pity, oh, you're that guy. But Maya just sipped her wine and said, she didn't give details. Sarah's good about that. Just said you were rebuilding your life and doing a damn fine job of it. That's generous of her. Sarah doesn't do generous. She does honest. Maya turned back to the painting. So, Mr. Lawyer who analyzes everything, what's your verdict on this piece? Beyond confused. I looked at it again. Really looked. It's chaotic, I said. All these colors crashing into each other. But there's something almost intentional about it. Like the chaos has a pattern if you look long enough. See, you do understand art. Chaos with intention. That's life, isn't it? We talked for another hour about art, about teaching, about law, about everything except the one thing that had defined my life for the past 2 years. It was refreshing, liberating, to just be Marcus the lawyer, not Marcus the betrayed husband. When the gallery started closing, Maya handed me her card. I enjoyed talking to you, Marcus. If you ever want to grab coffee and debate the meaning of existence over caffeine, give me a call. I might do that. Might is a lawyer word. What you mean is I want to, but I'm scared. I laughed. You read people well. 4th graders, they teach you to see through the words to what people actually mean. She smiled. Call me if you want. No pressure, no expectations. Just 2 people who had a nice conversation, maybe having another one. After she left, I found Sarah. You set this up, I accused. I have no idea what you're talking about. Maya, you conveniently disappeared, leaving her alone to talk to me. I was networking with the sculptor. Very important. Not my fault you happened to be standing next to my friend. Sarah, she grinned. Okay, fine. Maybe I thought you two might hit it off. She's been through some stuff too. Different than yours, but stuff. She gets resilience. I'm not ready to date. Who said anything about dating? It's conversation, Marcus. Human connection, remember that? I looked at the card in my hand. Maya Chen, 4th grade teacher, a phone number, an invitation to something scary and wonderful. She has my last name, I said. Chen. It's a common name. I know, just coincidental. Or fate, depends on how you look at it. I put the card in my wallet. I'm not calling her, I said. Whatever you say. I'm serious. I'm not ready. Of course you're not. I glared at her. What? You're not ready. You said so. I believe you. But her smile said she didn't believe me at all. I lasted 3 days. On the 4th day, I called. Hello? Maya, it's Marcus from the gallery. Marcus, the lawyer who analyzes art. I was wondering if you'd call. You were? Hoping, actually, which is different from wondering. Wondering is passive, hoping is active. Is that teacher logic? 4th grade philosophy, very sophisticated. So coffee, or have you decided I'm too weird? You're definitely weird, but interesting weird. I'll take it. How's Saturday? We met at a small cafe downtown. Nothing fancy, nothing romantic. Just 2 people at a table with coffee, talking. She told me about her divorce 3 years ago, amicable but painful, about how her ex-husband had been a good person, just not her person, about the process of untangling a life built for 2. It's like learning to walk through with 1 leg, she said. You can do it, but you have to relearn everything, balance, pace, direction. I know something about relearning to walk. She looked at me with curiosity but didn't push. Sarah told me you've been through something, she said. She didn't say what, and I won't ask, but if you ever want to talk about it, I'm a good listener. 4th graders teach you that too. I appreciated that she didn't press, didn't demand the story that had become my identity. Maybe someday, I said, whenever you're ready, or never. Either way, I'm enjoying the coffee and the company. We talked for 3 hours, about teaching, about law, about the chaos with intention nature of life. She made me laugh. I made her think. It was easy in a way that surprised me. At the end, as we were leaving, she said, I'd like to do this again. If you would, I would. Next Saturday? Yes. See, that wasn't so hard. Then, what wasn't? Saying yes to something. You looked terrified when you agreed. I'm out of practice. With coffee? With wanting things. Her expression softened. That's honest. I appreciate honest. Fourth graders? Life. Life appreciates honest. We met the next Saturday, and the one after that. Each time the conversation got easier. The smiles came quicker. The walls I'd built started developing cracks. I told Dr. Cho about Maya. How does it feel, she asked. Terrifying, but also nice? Those can coexist. Terror and nice. It means you're risking something. Vulnerability is always terrifying. What if I'm not ready? What if you are? What if being ready isn't a destination you arrive at, but a choice you make moment by moment? That's very zen of you. I have my moments. After a month of Saturday coffees, Maya suggested dinner. Like a date, I asked, and immediately felt stupid. If you want it to be, or like two friends having dinner, up to you. I thought about Catherine, about trust, about how my last venture into love had nearly killed me. But I also thought about the hospital room, about the silence, about all those days lost to darkness. Life was short, fragile, uncertain. A date, I said. Let's call it a date. She smiled. Okay, a date it is. We went to an Italian restaurant. Nothing fancy. Candles on the tables, but not oppressively romantic. Good food, better conversation. Halfway through dinner, Maya set down her fork. Marcus, I need to tell you something. My stomach dropped. Here it came, whatever truth she'd been hiding. I know who you are. What? I know about your wife, about what she did, the hospital footage. She held up her hand before I could speak. I've known since the gallery. Sarah told me before she introduced us. She told you? She wanted to make sure I wasn't blindsided. And she wanted to make sure I wasn't the kind of person who would judge you for it, or worse, be fascinated by it. I sat back, processing. So this whole time I've known, and I've chosen to get to know you anyway. Not because of it, not despite it, just alongside it. Why? Because you're not what happened to you, Marcus. You're how you responded to it. And from everything Sarah's told me, and from everything I've seen, you responded with courage and grace and strength. I was quiet for a long moment. You could have told me you knew. I could have, but I didn't want our conversations to be about that. I wanted them to be about us, about who we are now, not who we were or what was done to us. That's very evolved. Or very pragmatic. Fourth graders again. They don't care about your past. They care if you're fair and kind, and if you'll let them go to the bathroom when they need to. I laughed despite myself. I like you, Marcus, she said. I like the man you are. The one who analyzes art and thinks too much and is learning to laugh again. I don't care about the man you were or the wife who betrayed you or any of it. You should care. It's important context. Is it? Or is it just baggage we carry around thinking it defines us? She leaned forward. Look, I have baggage too. Failed marriage, trust issues, the whole package. But at some point we have to decide, are we defined by what happened to us or by what we choose to do next? You really are a philosopher. I'm a fourth grade teacher who's been through some stuff. Same thing, really. We finished dinner, talked more, laughed more. At the end of the night outside the restaurant, she kissed me. Soft, quick, surprising. Too fast? She asked. No, just surprising. Good surprising or bad surprising? Good, I think. I'm out of practice at this. Kissing? Feeling hopeful. She smiled. Hope is a muscle. It gets stronger with use. She left me standing on the sidewalk, watching her car pull away, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Possibility, not certainty, not safety, not the blind trust I'd given Catherine, but possibility. The idea that maybe, just maybe, good things could still happen, that I could still connect, still trust, Still love. Maybe. The next morning I wrote in my journal, met someone. Maya, teacher, wise, funny, knows my story and doesn't care. Terrified, but also hopeful. Maybe that's what healing looks like. Not the absence of fear, but the presence of hope alongside it. Chaos with intention. Life. A year. It had been a full year since the accident that had changed everything. A year since I'd lain in that hospital bed, listening to my wife plan my death. A year since I'd emerged from the darkness, sought justice, and then chosen to let go. A year of healing, of growing, of becoming someone new. I marked the anniversary quietly. Not with celebration, not with mourning, but with reflection. I sat on my back porch, the same porch where I'd made so many decisions over the past months, and thought about all that had changed. The man who'd driven to that intersection a year ago was gone. The man who'd exposed his wife at the homecoming party was fading. The man who'd chosen not to prosecute was evolving. And the man who sat here now, watching the sunset paint the sky in familiar oranges and pinks, was someone entirely new. My phone buzzed. Maya, thinking of you today. Here if you need me. She knew what today was. I told her about the accident, about the significance of the date. She hadn't offered advice or platitudes, just presence, support. Thank you, I texted back. I'm okay. Actually okay, I know you are. Still here though, I smiled at the phone. 3 months we'd been dating now, not rushing, not avoiding, just being. Together, separate, whatever felt right. Dr. Cho called it healthy attachment. I called it learning to trust again. A knock at the door interrupted my reverie. I opened it to find James standing there, holding a bottle of expensive scotch. Thought you might want company, he said. Did everyone coordinate today? Maya texted me, told me to check on you. She's managing me. She's caring about you. Different thing. He held up the bottle. Drink? We sat on the porch, sipping scotch as the sun went down. 1 year, James said, 1 year. You look good, Marcus, different than a year ago. I feel different. Stronger? No, just clearer, like I can see things I couldn't before. See myself. And what do you see? I thought about it. I see a man who was broken but not destroyed, who was betrayed but didn't become bitter, who could have spent his life seeking revenge but chose to seek peace instead. That's very evolved. I've had good help, good therapy, good friends. I raised my glass. Good partner. To partnership, James agreed. We drank. Have you heard from her? James asked. Catherine? No, not directly. I hear things occasionally, through mutual friends. How is she? Last I heard, she'd moved to another state, started over somewhere no one knows her story. That must be nice for her. Maybe. Or maybe she carries the shame everywhere she goes. I shrugged. Either way, it's not my concern anymore. You really have let it go. Most days, some days it comes back, the anger, the hurt, but those days are getting fewer. And Daniel? Don't know, don't care. James was quiet for a moment. I have to tell you something, he said, about the evidence, the emails Lisa brought. My stomach tightened. What about them? I gave them to the authorities, anonymously. I sat up. You what? I know you chose not to prosecute, and I respect that choice. But Marcus, they planned murder. They spent 3 years plotting your death. I couldn't let that go completely. So I sent the evidence to the DA's office. What they do with it is their business. James, before you get angry, hear me out. You chose peace for yourself. That's valid. That's healthy. But justice isn't just about you. It's about protecting others. Catherine and Daniel are still out there. Who's to say they won't target someone else? I wanted to be angry, wanted to feel betrayed by his going behind my back, but I couldn't quite summon the outrage. What did the DA say? They're reviewing the evidence. May press charges, may not. But at least they know. At least it's on record. And you didn't tell me. I'm telling you now. I was quiet, processing. You could have asked me first. Would you have agreed? No. Then I'd have had to go behind your back anyway. At least this way, I only deceived you once instead of twice. That's lawyer logic. I am a lawyer. I sipped my scotch. The anger I expected wasn't coming. Instead, there was something else. Relief, maybe. That the decision had been taken out of my hands. That justice might be served without me having to sacrifice my peace for it. I should be furious with you, I said. You should be. Are you? No, I'm grateful, maybe. You did what I couldn't do. Someone had to. We drank in silence for a while. So what happens now? I asked. Now we wait. See what the DA decides. If they prosecute, they'll need your testimony. If they don't, the evidence is still on file. And my peace? My moving on? That's yours, Marcus. No one can take it from you, not even the legal system. I thought about that, about the distinction between seeking revenge and supporting justice, about the difference between obsessing over the past and honoring the truth. If they need me to testify, I said slowly, I'll do it. You will? If it means protecting someone else from what happened to me, yes. But not because I want revenge, because it's right. That's remarkably mature. I'm a work in progress. James laughed. Aren't we all? He left an hour later and I sat alone with my thoughts and the remains of the scotch. The sunset had faded into darkness. Stars were appearing, one by one, pinpricks of light in the vast black. I thought about Catherine, wondered somewhere out there in another state, trying to outrun her shame. I thought about Daniel, stripped of his career and his plans. I thought about myself sitting on this porch and healing and learning to hope again. We'd all been changed by what happened in that hospital room. All of us transformed by her whispered words and my imposed silence. But while she and Daniel had been diminished by it, their characters revealed, their plans destroyed, I had somehow been enlarged, not in ego, but in understanding, in compassion, in clarity about what mattered. Maya texted again, "How are you holding up?" "Better than expected," I replied. James came by. We talked. "I think I'm okay." "Just okay?" "More than okay." "Good, actually. Peaceful." "I'm glad." "Want company tomorrow?" "Yes." "Dinner?" "It's a date." I smiled at the phone. A date. With a woman who knew my story and chose to be part of my future anyway. A year ago, I'd have thought that impossible, but a year ago, I was a different man. I went inside, poured the last of the scotch, and raised it to the empty room one final time. "Two endings," I said, "and two beginnings." Then I drank, set the glass down, and went upstairs to bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new joys, new fears, and new hopes. Tomorrow I might hear from the dump. Tomorrow I might have to face Catherine again, in a courtroom this time, telling my truth to strangers who would judge us both. But tonight I would sleep, peacefully, in my own bed, in my own house, in my own life. A life earned through silence and strength. A life reclaimed through truth and resilience. A life that was, finally, undeniably mine. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, because of course it did. Tuesdays had become my day of reckoning. I recognized the return address, the district attorney's office. My hands trembled slightly as I opened it, even though I'd been expecting this. Had been expecting it for months, since James's confession about submitting the evidence. Dear Mr. Chen, this letter is to inform you that Catherine Elizabeth Chen and Daniel Marcus Reeves have entered guilty pleas to charges of conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree. As part of their plea agreements, both defendants will serve terms of 8-12 years in state prison. We want to thank you for your cooperation in this matter. Your testimony, while ultimately not required due to the plea agreements, was instrumental in building our case. The evidence you provided, along with the hospital recordings and email correspondence, created an irrefutable case that left the defendants no choice but to accept responsibility for their actions. Justice has been served. I read the letter 3 times. 8 to 12 years. Catherine, who'd whispered about my death over my helpless body, would spend nearly a decade behind bars. Daniel, who'd moved into my bed while I lay in rehabilitation, would face the same fate. I waited for the satisfaction, the triumph, the sense that finally, justice had been fully served. It didn't come. What came instead was a strange kind of sadness. Not for them, they'd made their choices and would face the consequences. But for the whole situation, for the waste of it all, for the love that had never been real, for the years lost to betrayal and recovery. Maya found me on the porch that evening, staring at the letter. News, she asked. They pled guilty, 8 to 12 years. She sat beside me, took my hand. How do you feel? I don't know. Is that strange? Not at all. This is complicated. There's no right way to feel. I thought I'd feel vindicated, triumphant, finally justice. But I just feel tired, incerta, and maybe a little relieved that it's over. She squeezed my hand. All of that is valid. We sat in silence for a while. Does this change anything for you? She finally asked. For us? What do you mean? I mean, you've been on this journey of healing and releasing and moving forward. Does knowing they're in prison, does it reopen old wounds? I thought about it, really considered the question. No, I said finally. I think it closes them. Finally, completely. Really. When I chose not to prosecute, I was choosing my peace over their punishment. And I don't regret that. My peace came first. But there was always this small voice wondering if I'd let them off too easy, if they'd go on to hurt someone else. This, I held up the letter, this silences that voice. So you can really move on now. I've been moving on. This just seals it somehow. Maya leaned her head on my shoulder. I'm proud of you, she said. For what? For all of it, for surviving, for choosing healing, for not becoming bitter, for opening your heart again. She looked up at me. For us. We're pretty good, aren't we? We're chaos with intention. She smiled. Remember? The painting at the gallery. Our beginning. I kissed the top of her head. I love you, I said. The words came easily now. I'd been saying them for 6 months. I love you too, damaged parts and all. Damaged but not broken. Never broken. Later that night, after Maya had gone home, we were taking things slowly, no rush. I sat at my desk and wrote in my journal. The same journal I'd been keeping since the hospital, documenting my journey from silent prisoner to free man. The letter came today. They'll go to prison. 8 to 12 years. It's over. Truly over. I waited for satisfaction. It didn't come. What came instead was peace. Real peace, the kind that settles in your bones and stays there. Catherine tried to destroy me with silence. But silence, I learned, is not emptiness. It's full of truth, of pain, of possibility. In my silence, I found my strength. In my stillness, I found my voice. In my darkness, I found my light. And now, 2 years later, I am not the man who drove to that intersection. I am not the man who lay paralyzed in that hospital bed. I am not the man who exposed his wife's betrayal. I am not even the man who chose not to prosecute. I am someone new, someone forged in fire and healed by choice, someone who learned that the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's a life lived well, loved deeply, and cherished daily. Catherine will spend the next decade in prison, paying for her crimes. Daniel will do the same. But me, I'll spend those years living, growing, loving, becoming. That is justice, that is freedom. That is the ending of this story, or rather, the beginning of the next one. I closed the journal and looked out the window. The stars were bright tonight, scattered across the sky like promises. Tomorrow I would call James and thank him for doing what I couldn't. Tomorrow I would see Dr. Cho for my monthly session and process these new feelings. Tomorrow I would have dinner with Maya and talk about our future, a future that was becoming clearer and more beautiful by the day. But tonight I would sit with the silence. Not the imposed silence of my hospital prison, but the chosen silence of a man at peace. A silence that spoke of survival, of resilience, of truth, of hope. A silence that said simply, I am here. I am whole. I am free. Outside, the sky was dark, but the stars were bright. And somewhere deep inside, I felt my own light shining back.